make more by not working. And now with the stuff that the new communist child is proposing, and I don't have the slightest hesitation calling him a communist. I can look at his quotes and I can see paraphrases direct out of Karl Marx. Now, whether that was taught to him, brainwashed, he read it, is he a semi-communist socialist scholar? If he is, he'd be running away from it like crazy. And he's got quite a retreat thought out for himself in New York. He even does advertisements in Arabic. Where does he come from? What part of wherever he comes from? I forget. He comes from the Middle East, I guess, right? What's his name? Zostran?
Zoran Mamdani.
No, that's Zostran, like Nostrand Avenue. Yeah. Zoran. I know his last name. Mamdeni. Or is it AI?
Mamdani. Mamdani.
D-A, yes, not Denny. Denny's Mamdani. Oh, there's a picture of that stupid smile on too.
Yeah.
Where he looks special, actually. He was born in 1991. Now, Wikipedia, which of course is run by the same people or the children of the people who ran Pravda as an organ for the Communist Party of Russia, doesn't bother to tell you where he was born, which means from the point of view of what they think, it isn't a good place for him. So let's see if we can hide it. You know, his middle name is Kwame.
Hey, Kwame.
Zoran Kwame. Oh, he was born in Uganda, in Kampala, Uganda. He came to New York at 7, and he went to very rich private schools. So he is a newcomer to the U.S. One would think he'd have a little bit of humility and try to say to himself, well, gee, some of the people here may know it better than I do. He sure doesn't know it if he wants to have city paid for free supermarkets. That is about as Marxist a suggestion as you could make. Karl Marx, if he were around, would go up and plant a kiss on his someplace. And somehow this guy from Uganda, who is 30 years older or so, with a platform that sounds about as anti-American as you can get, gets elected in Manhattan. Now, all during this time, he's siding with Hamas in the war against Israel. Now, there's no way that a decent human being can side with Hamas in the war against Israel. I'm going to tell you another thing, and don't listen to the left-wing apologists for terrorism. There's no way any decent human being can side with Hamas about anything. It's a thorough, from top to bottom, terrorist group. So designated by our State Department, most of the intelligence services in the West and the United Nations. It means they kill people at will. And they kill people to keep control. And they have done a pretty good job of infiltrating the entire population. When you deal with a Palestinian, you have to be willing, and you want to say the Palestinian isn't a murderer, could be, right? And doesn't bear the hostility to America and Israel. You've got a lot of work to do, because that Palestinian, unless he comes from somewhere else, was brought up to hate Jews and Christians. He was taught the Quran literally. He wasn't taught an abbreviated version of the Quran or a Quran that was made more acceptable for young people. He was taught the Quran of Muhammad being rejected by the Arabs, the Jews, and the Christians. And because Muhammad was a very weak, amoral, if not immoral personality, he went out in the desert. He bamboozled the ignorant Bedouin of the desert because he couldn't convert the intelligent Arabs of the cities. And he was rejected by the Jews and the Christians. So he came back and he conquered them. And he said, you want to object to me? You die. Then after a while, he came up with the idea on a small scale, which became gigantic, of taking tribute. After going into towns, grabbing the top 10 most senior Jews, chopping their heads off or stabbing them or whatever. And as far as I can tell, the first picture of somebody doing a mass grave, and that was him. That was the leader of the religion, Muhammad, and any number of invocations in the Quran by Muhammad about eliminating the Jews, killing the Jews, not trusting them. Same with the Christians, and lots of suggestions on how to kill them. So you say this group has been radicalized. This would be like my getting radicalized reading the Bible. Now, I was having a debate about this, and I was told you can't criticize someone about their religion or the book that makes up their religion. Well, that's stupid, isn't it? Suppose the religion is a religion dedicated to murdering people. I can't criticize it. I'd be one heck of a poor American if I didn't. I'd be one heck of a poor American if I just let them get away with their hatred for my country. And this guy, Zotan Potan here, he's way beyond the usual. And it is a cause of great fear outside of New York. I was outside of New York now. I've been outside of quite some time. I haven't been back in a while. And then I was just in Washington, D.C., that has its own set of problems, but they're very worried about New York. The things that this man is saying, the press kind of tries to put him in a certain context that doesn't fit. The people of the United States have a better feel for this than the airheads in our media. So I'm not going to go through an exhaustive list of what he said. We will do that as the course of this campaign goes on, because we're not going to let him get away with it. He has gotten into a word game over whether he agrees with the proposition that the Intifada should be globalized. It seems that the protest he did. It seems in the questioning that he does. Now we get to the finer art of a masterful liar, which is he's now going to change the terms of the debate. This he probably learned reading Orwell. So now he's going to say, but you don't know what Intifada means. Intifada means the peaceful spreading of the religion. Well, there's nowhere, no place, no reference to dictionaries, word analysis that supports the idea that intifada means anything having to do with making peace. It's actually downright stupid when you consider what follows their invocations of intifada. And he wants to bring intifada to the United States. Well, if he brings intifada to the United States, why don't we pick him up and send them to Alligator Alcatraz, where he can go teach all those people about Muhammad and how Muhammad was on the mountain and the angel Gabriel came and they took him and he saw Adam and Eve and maybe the serpent, who knows? Serpent may have spent a lot of time with him. You know, you get up there, we don't get the whole story about what happens up there. He just tells it from the point of view of, he also was accused of being satanic. But that, you know, because it's a long time ago and there may have been something to it, who knows? But that is explained away by a mostly sympathetic press as they took advantage of him because he was an epileptic. And therefore, to them, not understanding completely what this disease is, they thought he was being attacked by the devil and fighting that kind of war with the devil who was inside his body. Now, you believe what you want about being possessed by the devil, but he then moved on and did the devil's work, killing thousands and thousands and thousands of people. It is a sacrilege and a disgrace to be comparing this man's religion with the religion of Abraham and Isaac, Moses, or the religion of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. There is no great body of opinion in either religion that you should do murder. In fact, the Old Testament has a certain amount of ambiguity about it, but the ambiguity is resolved mostly in favor of not doing murder. Thou shalt not kill. Not thou shalt not kill Muslims. Thou shalt kill Jews unless they pay you money, and a lot of it. Thou shalt kill Christians, except if they pay you lots of money and become basically your servant. Thou shalt kill Arabs who disagree with us. And then when he got out of there, he became, thou shalt kill the Persians. And he did. The country of Iran, that now wants to be the leading Islamic country in the world, very, very strangely, was converted by force of arms. So now you get a sense of why violence oozes out of this institution at will. And where every Christian group and every religious group has faced a certain number of wartime situations, this is ubiquitous among Muslims. And if you read their book, which some refer to as a holy book, I refer to it as a manual for conquest. You will see that it's a manual on how to convert by warfare. Now, why would one expect that they'd be peaceful? And they're not. And now, how has it come? I don't know if it's full circle. That probably overstates it. But how has it come to the point? How has it come to the point where we've got a candidate for mayor of New York City who espouses all of this? I wish I had a better answer for you. I do. This Ugandan American, first generation from apparently a very wealthy family, believes that this is a wonderful thing for us. Well, I don't know what's going on in New York that he would have gotten this kind of vote. But then again, I'm being a little bit purposely evasive because I can't face it. I don't know that I've ever described to you, and you're entitled to it because I deliver my opinions. I want you to evaluate them, and I want you to agree with the ones that you do and disagree with the ones that you don't. But just please don't stop liking me. You know, I'm a very tough individual. People come up to me and say, Mayor Giuliani, I don't know how you've gone through any of this. I still am a human being, and I like people to like me. And I will tell you, in my own defense, I believe what I say, and I examine what I say. If I, like this whole issue of taking on the Muslim religion, I thought about very carefully because I thought it is a religion. And is it better to have a religion or not? Now, this is a very good question to be asked of the Muslims. Is it better to have a religion in which the revered, loved, emulated head of the religion justifies your killing people of another religion, in particular, Jews and Christians? Is that really a proper comparison with Christianity and Judaism? Are they really the same kind of religion? Is it part of the definition of religion that it teaches what amounts to good, that it teaches what is universally thought of as moral values, good things? When did an organization that wants to teach you that it's valid to annihilate another religion, when did that get the definition of religion and put on an equal status with a religion that wants to save the lives of everyone? The questions I am asking now, I implore you, these questions have to be asked. These questions have to be answered, or they're going to be answered on a battlefield. And a lot of men will die. And I do believe that we'll prevail, but it'll be at a very, very heavy price. And it'll be at a very heavy price with our own people, many of whom have lost the ability to concentrate, to accumulate the facts, or to prove to yourself that the facts that you're given are true, is a tedious enterprise. You You have to be excited by thought and reading and research. It has to excite you. I miss it. It was part of my life as a law student and a lawyer. Even when you're the top lawyer arguing the Supreme Court, you're still the one looking for the right cases. You're still the one pushing for the research. And then every once in a while, you yourself, because you probably don't trust anybody, do some of the research yourself, because you probably think you're better at it than anyone else, and you're probably not. But you may be better at your own research, because no matter how good you are at articulating, no matter how good you are at explaining, sometimes you can't explain those little things deep in your mind that end up being the things that solve a case. Because if you knew it right at the beginning, you would have solved it right at the beginning. And sometimes those only come to the forefront through deep thinking. Sometimes deep conversation can do it too. Maybe more frequently, I don't know. Well, this has become a somewhat philosophical show. I think, and I'd like to get more feedback about this, because I think it's important that if we're going to make a permanent change in this country, permanent change to what we're supposed to be, a change from the bastardization of this country that began with the communist influences in the 1919s and 20s. And they're not the only ones. They're not the only ones. This is not just a case of communist infiltration and communist desecration of our basic values. It is that, but it's more to it than that. There are reporters that I respect very much this weekend that really got me to start thinking that this is a strange combination of Marxism and somehow it's associated with anti-Zionism. And I think that the Muslim people who hate Jews, which well, I don't know. I can't make this statement. My feelings about the feeling, I don't mean feelings like in a general sense. I mean the feelings that emerge from my study of the religion and experience with it by having been in many of these countries, has not taken me to the conclusion that their hatred of Jews is completely ubiquitous, that there aren't intelligent people of goodwill who find it an abomination, that this maniacal hatred of Jews has existed for so long. Now, I haven't found a Muslim. No, not true. Please, Rudy, think hard now. You're getting tired and you're forgetting. I have met Muslims who are very, very good Muslims. By that I mean they're very learned in their religion and they practice their religion. And one of them is an imam who teaches his religion. But he is absolutely clear that these invocations to mass violence, to any form of violence, have to be put in their historical context, or if not, in their historical context, and buried as the product of a very violent and difficult time, and also the product of a man who had great gifts in revealing the good part of the Quran, and then had a serious illness. And if you want to get the benefit of the good things that emerged, you got to do something with that second half, because that second half allowed to exist that way is the mother's milk of terrorism. And to keep it there with all of the money support and all of the influence support, is quite a tragedy. So I don't know what's going to happen with Zohan Pohan. Maybe we'll take a bit of a break, and we'll go on a subject that's a little bit easier to summarize. And I studied philosophy as a minor, but pretty close to a major subject in college. I had as many credits, I think, in philosophy as I did in political science. And I wasn't even sure if I was a political science or a philosophy major. I even thought in my very, very confused teens, when I wanted to mostly be a priest, but then interstitially, I wanted to be everything else. You pick a profession, I wanted to be it. You pick a job, I wanted to do it. I mean, it's true. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And look, I had a brilliant legal career to be culminated with an unbelievable reward. I was persecuted for standing up for my principles by a group of anti-American dictators. And I wouldn't back down. I think my son, at the end of the show last night, and I don't know that it got on, Ted, said something that made me stay up last night for quite some time, very proud and praying to my father. Now, I'm going to share something very personal with you. He said that, I have it paraphrased wrong because I was so shocked that he would say this. And he basically said, let me summarize it as he said, but with all the things that he's done, of which I'm very proud, there's nothing that even closely matches what he's done in this latter part of his life. Because they've done everything they can do to break him. And he's too strong and too principled to be broken, just like Donald Trump. That's not, he said it nicer than that. He's a very good speaker, my son Andrew, and he's a very good boy. And I hope he doesn't get mad that I said he's a very good boy. But when does your son not be a boy, huh? Even when he's the executive director of the biggest sporting event in history? Yeah, even when. He's always your boy. And my daughter, who just got married, she's always my baby. If we were to live in the America of Mumbabi Zoltan, whatever his name is, Mumbi Zoltan, or AOC, or Bernie Carrick. Oh, please, Bernie. Oh, my God, Bernie, forgive me. I was going to say Bernie Sanders. Oh, Bernie.
Those are two very, very different men.
Yeah, Bernie will forgive me, though.
Oh, of course. He'd laugh. He'd have a good laugh over that one.
Yeah, Bernie said,
He'd just tell me,
stop talking so much. You don't want me to talk about it anymore. Let me talk a little. I wish he was here.
Oh, man, we got to replay some of those conversations.
Bernie?
Yeah, I loved having him. He'd always come on. He'd tell, oh, man.
Nobody knows Lauren.
Text him right now. I sent him the link, right? I'm always sending the link.
You were at the meeting yesterday at
DHS, Department of Homeland Security.
Yeah, And we're not going to reveal anything that we can't.
A lot of it was public. I think most of it was
A
public.
lot of it was public. I don't think we really discussed secret material, but still.
I'd like to think I was
Let's
part
think
of
of
something.
it categorically for a moment.
I got a picture there.
So would you say, now, please don't be unnecessarily laudatory or anything else, all right?
Okay.
But would you say that my contributions on security were those of a professional rather than a politician?
Of course.
Yeah. And would you say that Bo Deedles were? I know Bo is often seen as a comedian and a joke, but when he got down to talking about what needs to be done and how to do it and how to analyze it and how to study it, wasn't it quite impressive to see how smart he is?
Mayor, yes, of course. Bo, yes, he had some very good
If you had Bo on this show, some people would say, he's a jerk. He talks funny. That's his act. The guy is great. And I'm really raising him because that's what Bernie was like too.
Right.
Bernie and I could talk for hours about law enforcement strategies.
You did?
About what, well, we did. You would sit there when we would stay up at night and just talk about how we would turn this around, how we would turn that around. Now, we did it in New York, and then we did it for a living. We did it in Mexico. We did it in Brazil. We did it in Dubai. We did it in Doha. We did it in parts of Ukraine. And we just go on and on. We did some in-depth work there. And then we did more surface analysis so they could decide what they wanted to do. And the nature of our work changed based on the needs of the country or clients. Sometimes they were private organizations, but somehow we got more often called for governments than private organizations. But we had a very, very, we had a very close relationship, but our minds kind of worked together in a way. He filled in something for me, and I filled in something for him. And I think we always, I think the product was greater than the two of us. I do. And the public one, including 9/11, but you don't know the private ones. And we took crime so much. We took crime down for the governor who was running for governor of or president of Colombia, that he got so excited. He said we reduced crime by 98%. It was like 68%, which was really remarkable that we were able to do it. But I think it was in Medellin, and it was a campaign appearance when he did it. So I got bombarded. Was it really? I mean, this would be unreal. I said, please don't put that in a headline, because all my competitors and friendly competitors would say, okay, now he's a big liar. Nobody reduces crime 98%. Bernie said we should, since we were going to start working in Africa and South America, we should say we had, no, I'm not going to tell you. We should say we had supernatural. We're getting supernatural health now. We didn't. Awesome. We didn't. I promise we didn't. You can tell I miss him, huh? Got to talk about. I hope you don't mind if I talk about him. But he'll come up a lot. He'll come up a lot during the campaign because he was also very active and very, very good politically. It wasn't as if he was just a cop. He had a very inquiring mind. He wrote a best-selling novel and two other very, very good novels. The people think of Bernie as a tough cop. They don't know the intellectual part of him.
And he would have been there with us yesterday.
What, pardon?
He would have been there with us yesterday.
Yeah.
Unless he had, and he was serving in a different capacity. which would have been a strong possibility as well. But so this was yesterday. Here is the mayor.
Oh, do you know who that is? So that's my son, Andrew, who's the executive director of the office of what is the exact title? It's the office to direct and oversee the 2000 World Cup games. I think we're going to have 78 World Cup games in a month and a half. That's a baseball season, except they're going to get 7 million viewers and ultimately 100 million. With him, by the way, could you go back and show that again? With him is, I'm holding the Bible for Heather Powers McBride. Heather Powers McBride and Andrew Giuliani grew up together. She is about 2 years older. She is the daughter of my closest friend, Peter Powers, who was my classmate at Bishop Lockland High School, my classmate at Manhattan College, my classmate at New York University, the godfather of both of my children, and that's my goddaughter. And then he was my campaign manager when I lost. He was my campaign manager when I won. And he was my deputy mayor, who was like my alter ego. I don't know that we ever disagreed. And if we did, it was private. If Peter made a decision, I backed it. Now, I'm not even going to say whether I agreed with it or not, because I don't think I ever disagreed with it. He had great wisdom. He had great control. And he was tough, as you could imagine. But it was concealed under a very, very balanced, mild exterior. And until people knew that, what was there, they didn't used to be afraid of him. And we played a different, it's usually like the boss is the good guy and the chief of staff is the bad guy and does all the bad news. And when we started, people were afraid of me because I was a prosecutor and I had the reputation of being really tough. And they would elect to have Peter decide. And Peter would use that to a fairly well. Like they would say, well, I don't agree with you, Peter. And Peter would say, well, why don't we take it to the mayor? They no. And then they'd get their heads kicked in by Peter, who had no tolerance for laziness or he followed scrupulously and taught to me the rule: you get what you inspect, not expect. Well, that's true too, but inspect. So he was constantly getting out of the office and getting off his fanny and going to the welfare department, going to the child welfare department, going to the Office of Management and Budget, going to the police department, going to the fire department, and checking on things to make sure they were actually as described. And that would put fear in the hearts of everyone, even the good workers. Everybody's a little insecure, even when they're doing a good job. They're not sure. But he had such a nice manner that by the time he was finished, unless you were really screwed up, you knew you were going to be treated fairly. So after a long while of his getting away with, well, you want to go see the mayor? And they'd say, no. He was coming down with such difficult decisions, like you have to cut 15%. Well, Peter, I can't cut 15%. Well, the mayor has told me that if you can't cut 15%, you have to go in there. And, the mayor has spent 2 years getting ready to be mayor. We've had 140 seminars. We have a book that Richard Schwartz keeps that's that big. So you go in there and within 15 minutes, he'll find the 15%. He likes doing that. He'll find it himself. But then there's no debate about it. The debate ends here. You go, we're going to tell you 10% cuts and you can pick them, or 15% cuts and we'll pick them. But they've already been made. He's already decided that. It's not going to be a big, long conference. So most of them would say no. One guy said yes. He left in about 3 weeks. I didn't cut him 15%. For being stupid, I cut him 25%. And most of it was things that affected him. I don't know, he had 3 cars. He didn't need 3 cars. I took away all 3 and I gave him a little jalopy.
I love that. What a great story. Man, I wish I met him.
You got to manage. You got to manage. You got to manage. Doesn't mean you have to instill fear in people. And if you do instill fear, you have to. There's my Peter. There he is. I'm going to see if I can recognize where that is. Now, this is when we, oh my goodness, I can't even recognize that. It was 1994, the year that I won, which is why he's got that big smile on his face. You don't know how good a man he was. Yeah, you know that me and my brother goes back to when we were 13 years old. We're in the same fraternity together in college. We lived, when we were adults, before I was mayor and I was practicing law and even U.S. attorney, I lived only 2 blocks from him. So our kids grew up playing together in Colshurst Park.
I got a couple other pictures here I'm trying to get. Yeah, I really wish I met him and getting to know Heather. You know, I'd always wanted to get.
You know, I'm going to talk to Heather. Heather and her other sister is also very smart. Wow. God, is she smart. So was Heather.
There's Heather.
Heather was on Fox, you know, for a few years before
really?
she got married. Yeah.
I had no idea.
Why do you think he picked her as public relations director?
Yeah, well, I mean, she happens to be gorgeous.
Andrew's no dope.
Yeah, yeah.
And Scott McBride, her husband, is one of Andrew's biggest golf partners. Scott's a little older than Andrew. He's a very, very accomplished lawyer. Scott McBride might be one of the nicest men I know. My friend Peter was so happy with his son-in-law, you know?
Yeah.
And that's so nice. I am too.
I get a group shot here of the group.
You know, I have a son-in-law and a daughter-in-law, and I don't know, I feel like they're my, I don't know, Z and I've always thought of Z as my daughter, and Mike will become like my son.
And that's part of what makes you a great man, Mayor.
I was lucky, my friend. You don't have to see. I don't think. I mean, I just know parents who have been perfect parents. I'm going to say better than I've been. And they end up with children with terrible problems. Yeah. And are there times that the parents cause the problem for the child? Yes. Are there times where parent has 4 kids, 3 of them go to West Point and become brain surgeons in the military?
That's a combo right there.
And one of them dies of drugs. Life is complicated. The world is complicated, which is why you have to have in the White House as our leader an extraordinarily complicated mind. And he does. And if you don't see it, it's bad for you because you're not opening your mind. You know, if you don't see it, you're not seeing a lot of other things too that would bear on your success and your happiness. And of course, I'm not saying everything he does is right, or even everything I think he does is right, because I have my own biases in that regard, and they very much like his. We grew up a lot alike, and we've fought battles together, and that tends to make you reinforce each other. I try not to do that. because I've been both a staff person and the principal. And I know that you've got to challenge the principal, because you can too easily fall back on you're always right. Whether you pretend to be or not, you can't be a good leader and think you're always right. There's got to be a certain amount of indecision all the time. And the worst part of it is you can't show it. At least in many areas of sports or even competitive business or competitive government, you can't show it. And in a way, it makes you a bit of a false character, because people are saying, well, he can't be that sure. Well, he isn't that sure. But to sell it, he has to be. And then eventually he has to be. And I think the wonderful thing about Donald Trump is he exposes presidential decision-making in a way that nobody else ever has. This is a wonderful thing for the American people. Gosh, if he was a bad president, this would be a wonderful thing for the American people.
Right.
It's good training for any executive to watch how he does things, how he brings people in, how he gets advice, how he actually changes his mind. He's not a rigid first idea, he goes with it, and if it blows up, he lies about it. Wrong, wrong, wrong.
Right. That's a very good point. And then there's a...
Isn't he better than we thought?
Yeah, I think...
No, we both, and this is quite a compliment, because first he would say I was the greatest president ever.
Yeah.
And I would qualify that to, he could be, because he only had 4 years. Right. And if we just want to focus on those 4 years, I would say those 4 years were better than any president I know. I can't compare him to Lincoln. He was at war.
Civil War.
Yeah. And those were a bad 4 years. He didn't turn it until later.
Washington's
Roosevelt,
unique.
maybe, but you have to agree with what he did.
Who?
Roosevelt.
Which one?
Franklin. You'd have to agree with what he did, and I didn't.
Yeah.
And I don't.
Yeah.
And my parents didn't.
You made that very clear on the show. You've turned me on FDR a little.
So I don't see that.
George Washington, but he's in a unique position.
George Washington's hard.
He's the first.
I don't even think you should compare anybody to George Washington.
Well, he's the first. You're right, because he's the first. So nobody can really, you can't compare to.
He's a mythic figure.
Yeah, right.
Lincoln by necessity probably had the biggest challenge of any American president so far.
Yes, and there's a lot of writing.
We've had nuclear scares, but not a nuclear challenge.
Maybe not as mythical as Washington, because we almost feel like we've read so much about Lincoln, right? People have written thousands of books. It's almost like,
well, I think
it's not as hard to.
Isn't it true? That's a very good point, Ted, because I think we are as close, even those who aren't the most educated. I think he's the most interesting president. And I find it very hard to believe that most Americans haven't read something about Abraham Lincoln, or inquired about him, or watched movies, or even have opinions about him.
Right. Depending what part of the country you live in.
We don't have, and because of the nature of the times, we have no idea really how right or wrong we are, because we don't have the kind of material you get on presidents now.
Right.
And Trump is an exception in that he's so open. I mean, he tells you what he's thinking and how he's changing his mind. And while he's changing his mind, I mean, it's remarkable. But even before Trump and in this modern age, we do get a lot more information about presidents, even the ones who try to hide it, right?
Right.
But in those days, the presidents lived behind a curtain. I mean,
right.
The press covered Lincoln, but what the hell did they get to see?
Yeah, and how did they cover how did the press back then? They'd go knock on the door and sit down and
ask questions, walk around,
ask people questions.
You try really, really hard to get a source. You know, so let's say I was president, they would try to become friendly with you and see what,
Yeah.
Or they would be friendly with Peter, Will they be friendly with
Bo,
what?
They wouldn't say a word.
But in any event, there's a if we forget about the press today, which is maniacal, when we think of the press as performing the positive role that's assigned to them, which is to be the fourth estate, the check and balance on our honesty and integrity. If they do that fairly, without prejudice, in other words, they don't start off by saying, I'm going to crucify the Republican and let the Democrat go. If they say, I'm going to evaluate the facts and put them out there and see how they go and keep an open mind about it. And if the man is falsely charged, I'm going to defend him. And if he isn't, I'm going to lay out the facts. But I don't think they're that thoughtful anymore. I don't think they do that. I think they end up being Republicans or Democrats, and they hit the side they hate. And then very often they hit them improperly because they hate them so much, they need another target. That has to change. We've got to change it. And I see him, making all these changes. I probably even see him making some down the road that you don't get to see because I know his personal goals. I can see how he is trying, and if he succeeds or not, I don't know, but he's trying to change the press. And he's not at all trying to change them into being lapdogs for him. I think he's trying to change them so they start with something that they used to start with and then evaluate everything. That they're loyal Americans. And they're not going to do anything to jeopardize the safety, the security, and the great future for the United States. I don't know how many of them fit in that category or fit in the category of it's our job to dig out the truth. Now that wouldn't even be so bad if that really were true.
We're talking about
80% of them, it's my job to pick out something that'll make me famous and rich.
We're talking about reporters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The idealism,
narcissism has taken it over.
But the idealism in the reporting profession, which was there, is gone. It's been driven out.
Yeah, just the idea of reporting the facts, the news, getting everything out to the people
It's out. When I talk to them sometimes, I used to be able, way back like 30 or 40 years ago, when I was U.S. attorney or whatever, I'd be able to talk to them on a moral basis. Like, is it really fair to go with this story? And they would react to that, and they wouldn't go with it if it was unfair. Now it depends on how big a story is.
Right. And we haven't even talked about the obvious partisan the motivations of the news media today in America.
Well, you saw it. I mean,
it's crazy.
Sometimes I see it every day in every newspaper, and I ignore most of it because I spend all my time looking at it. But then every once in a while, a thing like the CNN thing breaks out, and it goes viral.
Yeah,
it goes
right.
Whoo.
Right.
It's
it is bizarre because you'd think there'd be more of an appetite for accurate news. I mean, growing up, I would think, NPR, I could trust NPR, even CNN back then. They used to call it the Clinton News Network, but it wasn't as bad as it is now. You used to go on CNN.
I used to read the New York Times as a high school kid and a college kid to get the facts. And I don't know when I decided I shouldn't read it anymore because they don't give you the facts. That the editorial page begins on page 1 and that the stories are interspersed with adjectives and adverbs that try to brainwash you, like when they talk about President Trump brought up the 2020 election where he's been proven to have been a complete liar. Well, that's really not true. No one's proven that. No one's proven he's a complete liar. But they don't know the facts. Nobody's ever shown us the ballots in Georgia. Why? I mean, why won't the Secretary of State and the governor of Georgia, unless they have no power, just release all those ballots, put them in a highly secure place, and allow me to come in with my experts and prove to you that so many more ballots were altered that when the president said to Raffensperger, go find me 12,000 ballots. After all, there are 150,000. He wasn't saying to go find and go make up crooked ballots. He was saying go find them because they're there. But the press isn't going to cover that. The press won't even interview some people that would be dynamite for them to interview. Got to change. He's in the process of changing it. You wonder, can you get it all done in 4 years? And if God is good and he's replaced by there are 3 or 4 people who could do this. Vance is one of them.
Right.
I mean, look, you can be higher on somebody else, but Vance is one of them. Marco is another one.
Marco,
Marco has. It's no more little Marco, babes. It's big Marco.
Yeah.
That guy can do a lot, and that guy has America in his bones. Maybe it's the Cuban family or something, but wow.
Yeah. He understands.
This is like a Reagan-Trump love of America.
Well, Senator, my understanding is that the mayor was early in endorsing you back in 2010.
Yeah. Let me guys tell you something.
Quick story.
The mayor didn't just endorse me. He called me a week after the election and wanted to go after Charlie Crist again. We don't got to keep hitting him.
God bless. Well, Senator, my understanding.
I love that clip, man.
Well, I was so proud of endorsing because he's so smart.
Right.
You don't get that many smart people in that.
I mean, it is a low bar, but he's definitely an impressive
for him too.
Right.
Well, he was sort of a Bush person, so it was like a little weird. Jeb Bush is the first one to endorse him. Jeb talked me into endorsing. He said, I think it would be wonderful if Jeb was the governor then, and I will tell you that Jeb Bush helped me become mayor, and I helped him become governor. Not that he wanted for me or that I wanted for him, but we gave each other a lot of help. And we were good friends. And a year and a half before he was going to run, he asked, through a mutual friend, he asked if he could bring out the former majority leader of the state senate because he wants to run for governor against somebody I know you believe is one of the most dishonest men in politics, Charlie Crist.
Senate, right? Or was it governor or Senate first? He ran.
He first ran for governor.
Rubio did?
Oh no, Senate.
Yeah,
Senate. You're right, Senate. Because Chris was going to leave.
Yeah. You're right.
You're right. So I had gotten to know Marco somewhat in the presidential election, and spent some time with him to learn about Florida. And I considered him like a young kid, right? But I would always call Jeb because Jeb was very high on him. And I'd say, Jeb, that kid is smart as hell. Man, he's going to go places. He said, you're damn right he is. And then when he called me, he said, we can't think of anybody better to deconstruct Charlie Crist than you. Would you be willing to take on that role? I said, I would pay you money for it if it was legal. So I went and endorsed him. I was the second person to endorse him. And I volunteered. I mean, and anytime they needed a real disputation of Charlie Crist, which was every day. And I knew Charlie because Charlie was involved in my presidential campaign. Just long and short of it is that Charlie agreed to endorse me, Romney, and McCain. And Romney and me at the same time. He just didn't know which way to go, who we should come to first.
Right.
Somehow he didn't think that we would figure out He didn't think that after he endorsed me, I wouldn't find out that he endorsed. You also have to know he's profoundly stupid. He really stupid and a pathological liar. And finally, he endorsed. He waited until the very end. He broke his promise to me. He broke his promise to Romney, and he was going to endorse. He was going to endorse McCain. And I can't remember if he did or when he did. He made some unfortunate statement. So that McCain said, "Why don't you go back and endorse Giuliani?" And it became, McCain and I were very close, and Huckabee, and we were not close to Romney. I just have to tell you that. But on this issue of this creep, we had a lot of good laughs, the four of us. I mean, this was uniform. The other uniform thing between Huckabee, McCain, and I was that Romney should never be president because he's too shallow, and who knows what else he is. And then he was the nominee of the party the next time out. You know, maybe I'll write a book at some point about the inside stuff that goes on in the party. Like when John McCain called me on the golf course, I was relaxing, getting ready to take off from Minnesota that afternoon. I was going to give a big keynote speech. About 2 days later, it was all prepared. The McCain campaign, even more so than the Bush campaign, because I gave a keynote speech for them too, were very, very involved in the speech. Meaning, when I did the one for George Bush, I sent it in, and they made appropriate comments and some changes, things they wanted in, but it was basically very friendly and very much my speech. McCain people rewrote the whole damn thing. And I had to call back and tell them somebody else got to give it. Because you can't really work with those kinds of speeches. You have to work with a speechwriter who knows your voice.
Right.
You can't try to make you into somebody else. That's the nice thing about the good presidential speechwriters. They get to work with the president so much.
So much you get to know.
They get to know his voice.
Right.
So you almost can't see a separation between one and the two.
Right.
So I sat down with Ken Kurson, and we just got rid of them, and we wrote our own speech. It was a brilliant speech. I tell you, best speech I never gave. And the speech
2008.
The speech was going to be a little game, and it was going to be if McCain and Obama came in for a job interview for a very high position in the government, who would I hire? So I listed one's qualification, and then the other one's lack of qualification. Another one. Then the comments that Obama had made about America that would indicate that he shouldn't get a top security clearance. It's a brilliant speech.
Right.
So
was that in Minnesota?
Wait a second. You're getting too anxious.
Okay.
So now it's Saturday. I'm going to leave on Sunday. I got the speech all done. Everybody loves the speech.
Right.
All of his press people love it. They got it ready to go. They might have even leaked some of it. I get a call from John at 11 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning on the golf course. And I'm on the golf course with Maria, and with Randy Mastro, now Adams' counsel, who was my deputy mayor before.
I met him not too long ago.
And
he's growing his hair out.
And I'm on the golf course with Mark Mukasey, the son of Judge Mukasey.
His father was
who I grew up with. I mean, he
the
was
U.S. attorney,
like
right?
Second
or
son.
the age.
And he was my law partner. So I'm on the golf course, and we used to play very serious. We used to play very serious rounds of golf where we got the handicaps just right, and
man,
we never fought because we were two good friends. But if you felt like they were cheating, or they felt like you were cheating or pushing, there'd be a little resentment, just the usual thing for adults who act infantile playing golf. So I know exactly where I was. I'm on the fourth hole.
Yeah.
One of my cops comes up to me, says, you got a call from the senator, which would have been McCain.
Yeah.
I said, okay, I'll take it. Now they're all standing around me, and they knew this was going to be the vice presidential decision, because he was going to announce it at noon, and this was 10, and we were going to we went to play very early so we could go watch it later. And I said, here's what I said. I think. Who? When he told me the name, he said, I picked Sarah Palin. My answer to my good friend was, who? He said, oh, stop that. You know who she is. You're being a wise guy. I said, John, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. I mean, she ran a city that's the size of a New York City apartment building.
Wasilla.
I mean, are you kidding me? You got an issue against this other guy about his lack of preparation. He's got 50 times more preparation. And why the hell would you take somebody where I wrote a speech and you just ruined my speech, you son of a bitch?
That was more, yeah.
And then he started telling me the reasons. And then I called up his people after. You know how they gossip, right? Of course, none of them would admit that they were the one.
No way.
They said he did it on an impulse. I'm not sure I believe it, but that's where immediately it's not a good choice when the staff is running away from it before it's even announced, right? And then I had to change the whole speech. And then I did the unpardonable. I interrupted her film. I spoke right before her, and I got to introduce her. And I was supposed to speak 15 minutes less than I did. It's incapable of me to ever stop fight. And the speech was great. I had them off their feet. They were going
right.
nuts. And I also figured I'd bring her, much better to bring her on with a very, very enthusiastic audience than with some silly video.
Let's see if we can share some of this sound here.
But he has sacrificed for it as few do. As a young man, he joined the military. And being a Top Gun kind of guy, he became a fighter pilot. He was on a mission over Hanoi when his plane was shot down. He was tortured in a POW camp, but he refused his captor's offer of early release, because this is a man who believes in serving a cause greater than self-interest, and that cause is the United States of America. America comes first.
Yeah, you got them on their feet. This was the first few minutes.
I just saw Huckabee. I love Huckabee.
He has proved his commitment with his blood. He came home a national hero. He earned a life of peace and quiet. But he was called to public service again, running for Congress and then the United States Senate as a proud foot soldier in the Reagan Revolution. His principled independence never wavered. He stood up to special interests. He fought for fiscal discipline and ethics reform and a strong national defense. That's the one choice. That's the one man. On the other hand, you have a resume from a gifted man with an Ivy League education. He worked as a community organizer. He worked. I said. I said. Okay. Maybe this is the first problem on the resume. He worked as a community organizer. He immersed himself in Chicago machine politics.
You knew how to get the lines, man. I'm loving this. I was only going to play a couple
Then he ran for the state legislature, and he got elected. And nearly 130 times, He couldn't make a decision. He couldn't figure out whether to vote yes or no. It was too tough.
You gonna show the first speech? No, I'll watch. So I got some viewing material.
I have to say I'm enjoying it, but I'm an egotist. So we're gonna put that on.
I have to. Yeah, we'll put it on.
We'll put it on our.
We gotta have a library of Mayor Rudy Giuliani's great
Put
speeches.
it on for a while.
If these Democrats in the House are gonna claim they got these great floor speeches, we're gonna hit them back with
every time I ran
the greatest
somebody,
hits.
I used to speak them off the.
Do you recall your first major public address in any capacity? I mean, I'm guessing it would have been as U.S. attorney, right? Or no. Did you do anything with Hinckley?
Nah, the first major speech that I gave that I could remember being nervous about was the commencement address at Providence College in 1986. I had never given a commencement address to that many people. And I knew, and unlike a political audience where you know the you can see you can see when I was giving that speech that I knew every applause line and I knew every laugh. It's a partisan audience. You know how to handle them. But here I am in front of a group of 10,000 people, I think, at this graduation. And I was in front of a group of people of all disparate views and all, you don't know what's going to work with them or not. And you want to both elevate them and entertain them. So I was a nervous wreck. I went there on a Friday. It was on a Saturday. I spent the night with the monks because I loved the Dominican priests. I became very close to them as a result of that over the years. They even married my son and conducted the marriage. She didn't marry him. But it was a great experience. And then afterwards, we had like a luncheon with some of the top people. So they had the ability to ask questions about the speech, which also makes it so much more. You know, I like intellectual pursuits much more than I do what I did there. But I do it well because I was a trial lawyer. I mean, that what you saw there is kind of what I would do in front of a jury.
Yeah.
That the political speech is much more like what you would do in front of a jury. Providence College, great school.
1986. Let's check the mayor on his year, and whoa, there he is.
What does that say?
I don't know if you can see that. I'll try to make it bigger.
I can't see it. What does it say?
It says address.
The mayor was thrown out by a large group of protesters.
You see it now? Address to graduates. Rudolph W. Giuliani, United States Attorney, Southern District of New York.
Yeah, it was nice. I really enjoyed it.
I was trying to find video of it, but
well, you had some. Oh no,
well, from '86. Yeah, that was.
You had that. You had that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I got to spend some time just collecting.
I have not seen that in years, and that was my first. Be interesting to see that. Like, you should get out my first appearance on Nightline over the air traffic controller strike when I was defending President Reagan. That was my first time on national television. I wasn't even U.S. attorney before this. And here I am on national television about like a earth-shattering issue. And right before I went on, I'm very cocky, right, and all that stuff. Right before I went on, man, I was scared. Ooh. I said, my father had just died. I kind of said, oh, thank God he's not watching. And it's up there, so he can't communicate with me. But he would have been the one to say, boy, you better practice that. You're screwing up.
Man, I bet you, I mean, those years would have been.
And it was a boiling 110-degree night.
Nightline. And so you were in D.C.?
Yeah, but they did Nightline right near the Mayflower Hotel. I'll show you sometime when we're there, where we came out of the Mayflower Hotel.
Wow. Interesting.
I mean, we have turned this show into a biography, which I don't particularly like.
Well, let's shift focus back to Andrew real quick. I have a couple more pictures. That's the team so far that he's assembled
Come on.
for the FIFA. Let me get his title correct here.
I got to stand up straight, Ted. You got to remind me. You know what happens? My knee buckles, so it moves me forward. But if I just push on it a little, I can avoid it. I got to get that knee fixed.
And then there's the mayor talking with that's Department of Homeland Security. That's Trisha.
Yeah.
We love Trisha. She's doing great. We've known her for quite some time now.
I hope people recognize that she's been on a lot lately.
She's on a lot. She's working hard and quite the staff.
And she's another one under 30 that's a miracle worker.
That's my favorite picture
There are
right
the
here.
boys. They could cause trouble, boy. You want to see a threesome? I got my two young guys there to cause trouble. Whoa!
I do get asked, but surprisingly more than you'd think, are you his son when I'm at the airport?
But yeah, but you watch out. I mean,
we don't look that alike. I mean, Andrew's spitting image. I mean, Andrew, when Andrew smiles, that's you.
we set our sights on Randami Pandami.
Oh, watch out.
I don't know if he's a match.
There we go.
Get you and Andrew worked up.
Well, I didn't know you. I reached out to Andrew. He didn't really know me. I worked with you guys for a couple of weeks on the campaign.
He doesn't know how good you are politically.
I know he didn't. Then he wouldn't have known. Yeah, he wouldn't know that. Thank you for saying that. I'm not. You're saying
well,
not
he
me.
might have won if he had you.
Nah. I love you saying that, Mayor, but
I'm serious about that.
yeah.
And
I would have loved to be a part of that. I wanted to.
Not only because of you, because you're fundamentally good, and you have common sense. But if he was handled right, it could have been a different candidacy.
I mean,
the first candidacy is so hard. It's so hard. It really is.
It is, and that's the thing.
The only way you win the first candidacy is when you're lucky, and the other guy was like a real screw up.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Ronald Reagan ran 3 times before he won.
Right.
How do we ever get a better candidate than that? Now Trump won the first time out, but then he got defeated. Well, maybe the second time.
No, yeah, that's a very good point.
Well, let me see what I have here in the way of.
Well, we may have one if we can get Joel on. Joel from Israel.
Important news.
He's not.
We know about the big beautiful bill passing in the House. We're looking forward to a great ceremony tomorrow, passing it. Ted and I are going to spend the evening trying to find the very best 4th of July celebration in New England, so we can go to it and make fools out of ourselves because we like that. I mean, we'll be like pathetically patriotic because we are. There's no way to love this country too much. It is impossible. If you like to wrap yourself in a flag, fine. Just don't defile it. I love that. Want to kiss the flag? You can kiss the flag. It deserves to be kissed. If you want to go on and just say America is the greatest country in the history of the world and list 45 things, I'll give you the podium. And I'm saying that now because we need a corrective at this point. It's been too much of this attack on America. It's been too much. The communists have gotten too far here. They're going to get cut off.
That's right. I mean, so yeah, a lot of
I am not. Randy Weingarten has left the Democratic Party.
Wait, whoa, that's news.
So they're getting rid of they're gaining a communist and they're getting rid of a communist.
I was going to say, who benefits more from that?
The Democratic Party, but I mean, they honestly, compared to Mandami Pudami, she's
all of a sudden she's like, all of a sudden I'm like, let's get her in office. Shouldn't laugh. This is crazy what we're dealing with. We should not laugh. It is crazy.
We are. I don't know if I agree with this, Ted. Tell me if you agree with this.
All right.
That the White House is cutting back on sending promised artillery rounds, Patriot air defense, rocket systems, Hellfire missiles, and other types of munitions to Ukraine because America is running low. Now,
we stopped or wait, say that again?
We're holding back on
Okay, yeah, I
sending
disagree.
them.
I disagree with that.
Okay,
Yeah, I disagree with that.
I don't think this is the.
That's my gut reaction. That's my gut reaction. But Mayor, as an expert on this, who's been dealing with this for decades, what do you think?
I think so. I really think so.
We have our problems in that with them, but it just seems like you don't want to cut,
Yeah,
the capabilities of your.
I connected it to another thing here that I found. I didn't have my printer, so it's a little less.
But do we
organized.
know that these arms and this weaponry gets to the right places?
Pardon me?
Do we know that do we know that this equipment gets to the right places? Because we hear sometimes you're saying we're holding up these shipments. Do we know that these shipments
anyway?
Does it get? I mean, let's say, okay, let's give them these Patriot missiles and that. Do they get to where they need to go, or do they end up in the black market?
I don't know. Can they get them on the black market?
I don't think corruption. Suggesting, can you corrupt the process?
I think you get them on the black market after they've been shopped around.
Okay, so it's not.
He needs them right now. The NATO chief, who I think has been enormously compliant.
Yeah, we
and
like
very, very calling him daddy, But I think the NATO chief has made beyond the daddy thing, which is a joke, has made he's made it easier for Trump to get that 5% out of people. If Trump had done it directly, right, it would have left scars.
Yes,
but he got a European to do it, and becomes kind of the bad guy,
right,
and the good guy. So I think we owe Rutke a lot of credit for that. I think he did a really good job. So apparently this week, he's been pushing Trump not to cut back in any way on Ukraine.
Who?
Rutke, the head of NATO.
Oh, yes.
Is saying, please.
Yeah, and I would trust, yes. Back. So we would trust him maybe more than what the Ukrainian, that would make sense.
This is also in the U.S. interest, says Rutke, for Ukraine not to lose this war, and having a huge Russia now on the border of Europe. And of course, a secure Europe also means a secure U.S. We now have to make sure that Ukraine has what it needs, that Russia will come to the conference table and have a meaningful dialogue with Ukraine, which they're not ready to do yet. They've got to see the end of this. And it is, I don't know. It's very, very bad to think in categories. It's very, very bad to think in no boots on the ground, no extension. No, we'll never get involved in a foreign war. We'll never. That's not thinking. That's setting up a group of protections against making a difficult decision. And if you're gonna govern in difficult times, you're gonna make one difficult decision after the other. And the right one is not just to repeat not yet, 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 not yet. It's to evaluate each decision and see the opportunities that are in them and how they can be done. The points that Rutke has made and other great men have made is we may want to, we may hope we can, but we can't remove our connection with Ukraine. If Ukraine is defeated in the next 30 to 60 days and Russia marches into Kyiv, we will have suffered a tremendous blow that will offset the wonderful work we did in Iran. We'll look like we're afraid, and we'll look like Russia has a thing on us. Either we're afraid of them or we're too cozy with them. The president has warned them to stop. He should stop. I don't sanction or think it's wise to attack Russia. But if they try to take over this area that we wanted to use that area for ourselves. we should make a mistake and hit it with a bomb. Something has to be done to say to Putin, because all he's seen is backdowns by us. Something has to be said to Putin that you are the single biggest source of evil in the world. You sponsor it, you pay for it, you spread it, and you probably make it a contagious disease. And the only thing we can do to you is quarantine you and stick you in your stupid little city that you're in. We're not going to let you out until you start acting like a human being instead of a mass murderer. But right now, the city at stake the city at stake right now. I mean, I think this is where he is probably right in that group that's protected by the range that we have control of. And I don't sanction or suggest killing Putin, but I think Putin can be scared. I don't think Putin is the tough guy at 70, whatever the hell he is now, that he was before. And it's time to take him down to size, like we did so quickly with Iran, right? Does anybody really think of Iran as a nuclear power or a military power anymore? Well, I'm going to see if there's anything for Friday that I have.
Well, tomorrow, of course, July 4th, so you'll want to tune in if you're not outside. Tomorrow being July 4th, you'll want to tune in. We'll be live.
We're going to take some pictures, though.
We'll take some pictures.
We're going to try to take some pictures.
Some pitches. You know, we're an hour from Boston.
In New York? Yeah, picture. We take a picture.
We're an hour from Boston if we want to do something there tomorrow.
We're very near Boston.
Which, you know, historically
and
was
nice to me in Boston. Do you know that China and India are in a dispute? This is what you got to capitalize on. I hope our State Department, anti-American though it is and lazy though it is, has picked up on that immediately. India would not sign the trade agreement. Now we got to go visit India. What can we give them if they're not giving them? India is a major protection for us against China, and we've never used it properly. We're beginning to move Japan in that area. But you surround them with a very, very robust Indian military and a crazy Japanese military, and they ain't gonna go too far. Japanese have defeated them in every war they've ever been in history. They are, I don't care what they tell you, they are frightened. They're frightened about the possibility of Japan getting in there. And when they get in there, they act like maniacs. I don't know if they still do, but they used to. So we'll see. So I don't know what you're getting ready for the 4th. Ted?
Yes.
What are we getting ready for the 4th?
Well, for the 4th, of course, the
today
president
we stopped
signing.
in Washington. We bought all our shirts, right?
I had one of those if you want to show it.
Yeah, you want to show? This is Ted's shirt.
No,
I got one too. Yeah.
I don't know who thought of it first.
I got one. I think we got one for you, one for me, and one for Dr. Maria. For the team. Look, Ted. Does it look good?
Yeah.
Do I have it there right?
Yes, you have it there right.
This is not an advertisement. I don't know where you got it. We got it at the airport in Washington.
We got our shirts for tomorrow.
It has a nice feel too.
So we got our shirts for tomorrow. We're obviously the president, I believe, is doing a signing tomorrow, right, for the bill.
Yeah. The big,
Beautiful bill.
beautiful bill. I'm gonna get
Well, if you ask the Democrats,
money
everyone
back on my Social Security. Wow.
Well, if you ask the Democrats, everyone's going to be dead by tomorrow because of this thing.
The Democrats would have had like
Hakeem Jeffries, long as
wait.
floor.
we'd had a wait tomorrow from the Democrats, right?
Yeah, I think they were just more upset they were forced to stay in Washington a little bit, do some work a little bit longer.
Well,
So we'll keep everyone up to date, and we'll be back tomorrow.
we'll be back tomorrow where everybody else is taking off. We don't want to miss our festivities with our patriotic, wonderful, and beautiful audience, because you and I and the people like us are the ones that are going to save this country. And we're on the verge of doing it under the leadership of our greatest president ever. What a task. And how balanced he is for it. Wow. It's remarkable. And he doesn't need me to do it. All I do is observe. I don't do anything to make him that. That's the way he is. That describes a man of real courage. Because there are men who act it, and if they act it at a moment like this, it backfires. This isn't backfiring. And I think the Chinese get it. I don't know if, and excuse the psychobabble, but I don't know if Putin has the independence of mind and the ability to get out of his narcissism to see this as a greater man than him. Because that's the way he would interpret it. It is, but I mean, there's not even a gap. I mean, there is a gap. But we'll see. Tomorrow will be a very interesting day, probably one of our most interesting July 4ths. The country is in one of its great, great transitions. You help it along. Please pray very, very deeply now. Let's pray. We've had for some long, long time, but pray for the people in Japan because they're at risk, and pray for the people of Ukraine because they're still being slaughtered by the bloodthirsty Putin forces. And pray for the people of Iran so they aren't needlessly sacrificed. Please, God, bring them out of bondage. They're very good people. Very, very good people. Pray for the people of the United States. Pray for our president. This time I'm going to ask him to pray for you and me and Dr. Ryan and our families because they worry about us. And pray for all of your intentions and go to church this Sunday, huh? Or synagogue tomorrow. Show God who's in charge and who you believe is in charge. So we'll see you. When is it, Ted? At 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. Tune in for a special.
It may be a repeat. It may be something because they give it everybody off. But America's May Alive. It could be a 4th of July show, and we're gonna act crazy. We're gonna make believe we're comedians, and we're gonna act crazy. Okay.
It'll be a fun night. We'll try to get the audience involved. Maybe fireworks. We'll see. We'll see what's happening here. Maybe we'll have some steaks or a barbecue. Does a barbecue include steaks, or it can, or it doesn't always have to, right?
Only steak. Hamburgers.
Hamburgers and hot dogs, chicken.
I like barbecued
chicken.
hot dogs.
Brats.
I like barbecued hot dogs, even if they get a little burn.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm not bad on burned food. I had an aunt, and everybody used to make fun of her cooking because she always burned things, and I loved it. I used to make her cook for me.
That's fun.
And she thought I was like sucking up to her, and I loved it.
That's fine. Yeah.
I've always been weird. But Ted,
Well,
you did a great job over the weekend. We got it.
we did.
350,000 people on just one network last night would have put together.
Right. But those shows the last couple nights were pretty fast paced. We had a lot of guests in and out. But I agree. Yeah, it's been a good weekend. And considering you're right, we've been on the move.
Yeah,
we've been on the move.
Right to celebrate this weekend, okay? We'll celebrate together.
Yeah, we're going to celebrate with them.
And things are starting to pull together for our great president. And that means for our country, because it's one and the same. So once more, but this time, like you really mean it, because this is a request to God. God bless America. U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month.
Wow.
Including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast.
These deals are selling out.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're gonna go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's Coffee.
It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom
adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze,